Let's play some hockey.
You are watching Gooch Live featuring Paul Rosen. That is not Paul Rosen. Unfortunately, Rosie can't make today. He will be back tomorrow with us. It's been brought to you by the good people at the Hockey News. Hello, Graham. And, of course, Sports Illustrated. How you doing, Don?
I'm doing all right. How you doing, buddy?
I know you were going to say powered by Paramount Sports Management. Thank you for that. What a great show. Listen, we've got Mike Gartner. Oh, my God. The kid could fly. Like, he still can fly. And I know we're bringing up a special guest. He doesn't know about it, so don't tell him. That's going to be really, really exciting. World of sports. I know we're still reeling over the fact that the NWHL has shut down. Obviously, what a disappointment. We understand why. For the ladies, it would have been a great opportunity for them to be on television, NBC, of course. Your thoughts on that? Is there anything other that you've heard, or is that it's obviously because of COVID?
Yeah, it's too bad because they've taken another hit once again based on what happened. The women's leagues shutting down within 2 years ago, I think it was, and then they were springboard to get this on. I think they were supposed to return to play one of their games at the MSG this year, so that was also postponed due to their COVID thing. So that would have been a great thing for them, but hopefully they can bounce back after COVID.
Now, I know before we get Garts up here, we don't want to be. We want to hear about it. What does he like the Canadian division? Does he like the Montreal Canadiens this year? Does he like the Toronto Maple Leafs? Who's his favorite team? All that sort of stuff. But before we get there, obviously we have to just touch upon it. The NHL is going to have to do something with this COVID situation. Obviously, my good friend, I use that name dropping. I actually played with him in junior. Ralph Kruger has just been diagnosed with a positive test. He is the coach of Buffalo. They've shut that down. I'll tell you what, little concerned. I hope this goes away. So that's enough on that. Let's get the reason why you are here. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are so excited to have this gentleman join us, Mike Gartner.
Mr. Gartner, how you doing, Kerry? Well, how you guys doing?
Nice seeing you again.
Anytime, Mike, we can talk hockey, and anytime we can talk to you, just makes the show that much better. So thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be a part of it. First round draft pick with, of course, those Washington Capitals, fourth overall, which is fantastic. And then, of course, as the boys would say, you got lucky and you came to Toronto.
Well, yes. I mean, that's true. There was a little bit of time in between there, Kerry, as you know, before I finally got to my my hometown team, the Toronto Maple Leafs. But it was a lot of fun playing in Washington, and the year I played in Minnesota, and then obviously for the Rangers before I finally made it to Toronto. But for a kid growing up in Ontario, in Barrie, Ontario, and then playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs, obviously a huge thrill.
Well, I know that I've got a special guest coming on in a bit. You don't know who it is yet, but I'm just going to give you a little tip. Thank God you didn't go to the Flyers. Listen, I want to read some stuff off here. 1993, you set the record at 13.51. Is that in a car driving the 60, or what was that, the 13.51? That is fast.
Well, it was not too bad. Now, it was on what I would consider a fairly slow track at the old Montreal Forum once around. And, 30 is 36 years old. So, I mean, Kerry, somebody had to beat it. One of these young guys had to beat that record, didn't they? At some point?
Listen, absolutely. But listen, it was in your 17th season. It wasn't like you were just a fresh rookie. You came out in the 17th. It was 1996. I think it was the super skill competition. You broke your own record, which is crazy. And then you set the record for the fastest skater event with a time of 13.386. Thank you, Val, for all these numbers. Versus the flying Russian, I guess you want to call it, can't call him a flying freshman, Sergei Fedorov. Wow.
It was fun. I mean, those fastest skating competitions were kind of fun. I mean, at one point they did it where they had competitions within each team, and then guys who won their their team kind of went to the All-Star game, and it was that way. And then they did it with just the All-Stars, which seems to be how it ended up with just the All-Stars doing it. But yeah, it was kind of a fun thing. I mean, the skills competition is like a hit and miss type of deal, and it was always fun with the kind of doing that.
Well, our producer, Val, along with our new assistant producer, James Clubine, they have put this together. How quickly Val has got this. That was not a young Mike Gartner there. He was in a Boston jersey. Watch this.
Well, just trying to accelerate around the corners. I mean, that's the key, and stay low and keep pumping it. There's no secret to it, and stay on your skates.
Look at that. You know, when you watch that, I had to do this also at an old age in Hanover, Germany. They had a big celebrity, all the boys come back. I think I was, 43 or something like that. And they didn't have the padding on the sides. Now they do. Were you not a little bit nervous? Because I slowed down going around the nets, because all I needed to do was do a toe pick and boom, you slide. And you weren't wearing a helmet either. So golly,
you know what happens too is everybody gets doing it. And I was the last skater. I think Peter Bonder and I, in that clip that you showed, we were the last skaters. And so a bunch of guys had already gone around. And so it gets a little chewed up around the corners. Yeah. And you kind of know that, and you don't know whether you're going to catch a rut and so you want to accelerate, but at the same time, you want to stay on your skates. And you do get going pretty quick down there, and you have to make a fairly tight turn.
Yeah. Hey, listen, before we bring up our special guest, I want to go through a couple things on the right-hand side. I don't know if you can see them, but there's a bunch of people joining us. So I just want to do shout-outs and ask some of the questions. Obviously, David, thank you for joining us. All the way from Melbourne, Australia, our good friend Aaron Kuzak. Listen, from New Zealand. Kia ora. That means hello in Maori language. That's fantastic. I think you'll know this name. Rick Wharton, Lorelei Adlam are saying hi to you. Of course, thank you for joining us, guys.
People I've known for a long time. That's great. Awesome.
Great that they're saying hello. Great skater. That goes without saying. Well, we know that. We've seen that many times. Dennis Marouk, the 60 goal man. Great to have you on, and obviously supporting your old colleague here. Say hi to one of the greatest NHL wingers. I enjoyed playing in Washington with him. Class act, and watching his dedication to the game increased my playing ability. Please give Mike and his family. Dennis, we don't have to. You're live right in front of us. Thank you for such a great compliment to our buddy Garts.
Oh, that's awesome. And Denny was a great teammate, and anybody that could score 50 goals one year, 60 goals the next year. I mean, Denny was someone that was in and of himself a great goal scorer himself.
Yeah. Listen, David Carlson, he's always on our show. He's a longtime listener. A lot of comments come from him. He's not the first-time caller. You love to say that. He asks everybody this: what hollow do you have on the blades? He is a skate sharpener. So he's asking, I used to own a skate shop.
Okay, so I have some good, I'll give you the quick answer. It's a 1/2 inch, which is a pretty flat sharpen. But I had I was a little picky with my skates, and especially with my blades. So my skate, I wanted my skates as flat as I could get them with still having an edge, because I always felt like the more you dug into the ice, the more friction there was. You just wouldn't go as fast. And so you gave up a little bit of a bite when you needed to stop really, really quickly, for instance, coming into the offensive zone. But I thought you picked it up on the high end. And I also like to have a lot of blade on the ice. So I would change the steel in my skates probably about every 2 weeks. So some guys like to have a real steep rocker on the edges, but I like the real flat blade. So I would, in order to do that, because you have to sharpen them so much, they get rockered unintentionally, and I like to have a very flat blade, so I changed it every 2 weeks. So anyway, just a little bit of an insight on how I like my skates. Anyway.
All right, all the way from Tasmania, Australia. G'day, mate, from Tassie. I love all these guys and all their languages all across the world. I know awesome. Tobias. Yeah, Toby's joining us from Germany. Listen, I wanted to say, obviously, I know you're a very humble gentleman, but not only a Hockey Hall of Famer, we'll get into that in a few minutes. 1,432 games in the National Hockey League, 708 goals, and we know why that's significant today. 627 assists for 1,335 points. Mike Garts, those are impressive, kid. Impressive.
Well, thanks, Kerry.
How do you feel about listening to those type of numbers now? They're
yeah,
just
it seems. I mean, sometimes with my career, it feels like it was yesterday. And you start telling stories, and you're kind of into it, and you kind of remember all these things. And other times, it feels like it was a long time ago. But yeah, when I started playing, I mean, I came in as a player that was considered a good two-way hockey player. Could obviously skate and shoot the puck, but I really didn't come in as a big goal scorer. I kind of developed into that in Washington just because we needed some help scoring goals, and I was put in that position and was able to kind of develop. I always said that my hands caught up to my legs about my third or fourth year pro, and after that, it kind of all came together pretty well.
You know, my hands and skating ability came when they took the red line out, and it gave me 5 years longer in Germany, for God's sakes. Had
Not so bad.
with anything other than that. Hey, listen, Gart's first goal and hat trick in Phoenix history.
Hey, how about that? Can't even remember it. And that wasn't that long ago. That was at the old America West Arena. So we're a new team, right? With Phoenix, moving from Winnipeg into Phoenix, and I can still remember that first press conference. Chris King and I and Shane Doan, I think, was there, and we had these heavy Phoenix Coyotes jerseys that they made. Now they're kind of a retro, cool look now, but they were about 3 layers thick, and we're wearing them at the press conference in the middle of the summer in Arizona. And I'm thinking, it's hot now. This jersey is going to be really hot by the time we get cooking in it, which it was. But the America West Arena, once again, I don't know if anybody knows, when we first played there, the 2 years that we played there, it was built for basketballs. And so one end, you could not, the people that were in the stands in the one end, on the second level, could not see the net because it was too short. So you could see everybody. As soon as the play kind of came in towards the net, they'd all look up, and they had this big, huge screen there that they could see see that net, but you just couldn't see what was going on underneath you. But it was a lot of fun, and we sold out almost every game in Phoenix, which is so difficult to kind of watch it now. Where the rink in Glendale, I know they're trying to change that. But when we were there the first couple of years, you couldn't get a ticket to come and watch the Phoenix Coyotes play. It was great. And so I think if they do eventually move it over into the East Valley somewhere, I think it'll really pay off for them to do that.
Well, listen here, obviously 19 NHL seasons, 15 consecutive 30-plus goal seasons. Incredible. Before I bring our special guest up, there is a comment that I think is very important that you need to read. So Mike and his wife, Colleen, were around the Teen Ranch Canada when Corey and I got married. She literally told me that my bridesmaid dresses were her favorite of all time, and Mike was great to us too. Obviously, we lost Mel this year. I know how big of last year, how big of a loss that is to all of us, but to Joanne and Corey Nielsen, we love you. He played with me in Germany. And of course, I know that you've seen them at the Teen Ranch.
Oh, all the time. We're wonderful people. I love them. I love the whole Stevens family and extended family and all the people at Team Ranch that have played a beautiful part in our life. And it's a ministry just northwest of Toronto, and they do riding, they do hockey programs. They've attended to a lot of national teams. That's where you've had an association, Kerry, with them. They have an association with a lot of people in Australia and different areas. And Mel, the founder of Teen Ranch, passed away this last year. Was a great friend and a mentor. And him and Betty were big parts of our lives, and Tim and Ann and the whole Stevens family. Mel will be very missed, and he's made a great impact on my life.
Well, you and I, you may not recall it, but we used to drive out there. I think 7 o'clock in the morning, we had those skates with all the boys, and I really miss that time. Listen, we had a special guest. I know you know who it is. I'm just joking. Philadelphia Flyers. He's not wearing his, I told him, no Flyers.
If he comes on, Kerry, if he comes on with that Philadelphia Flyers jersey, I don't know what I'm going to do. I might have to come through the screen and get him.
Chuck Bastie. What's going on, kid?
Look at you, Chuck. I mean, Chuck, you know that you would love to be wearing a Philadelphia Flyers jersey right now. You know it. You'd love to.
I think you were abused in your time with the Caps and the blue shirts, Garts, because Philadelphia is a class organization. And I know, like, during the alumni game in 2012 when you were down there, like, the Philly fans just loved you. So, like,
you know what? I have nothing against the Philly fans or Philly itself. It was great because in Philly was a lot like New York when you knew that if they were on you, you were doing something right.
True.
Which was great.
Tough fans, though. I'm a little afraid to go to Philadelphia and watch the Flyers play.
Yeah.
And I'm a Flyers fan, so.
Oh, no. Yeah, really. We knew that. We did know that.
Sorry, we're going to get you to talk. There's lots of questions coming in here, so I'm going to let you get in a question right now because obviously you're listening to Gooch Live right here, and we've got Mike Gartner. Oh, my God. Chuck.
I know. I was lucky enough to watch Mike play in his rookie year. My dad was in the armed forces, and we were stationed at the embassy in D.C., and we grew up across the Potomac in a little town called Vienna, Virginia, just outside of McLean and Fairfax. And I remember, like, the glass was really small back then at the old Cap Center, Mike. And I know I've told you this story a million times, but this was my very first professional hockey game. My dad took me down, and it's your rookie year, and you were coming in during hockey warm-ups, and you took a slap shot. I think it was on Dave Perro, and you broke your stick in half and still got on net. My dad looked at you, and he looked at me and said, "See that guy there? Like, watch him. He's going to be a real star. Like, you just wait and see." And my dad, he could pick him. So there you were.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And I remember back in those days too, Chuck. The Caps, we struggled early in that franchise, and then we're able to right the ship and become a pretty good hockey team and a successful franchise. But that old Cap Center. Now, you as a goalie, because Chuck and I played a little bit of hockey after I had retired together, and can you imagine it as a goalie at the Cap Center? It was dark in there, right?
Yeah.
Like, the seats were dark, and I think that goalies sometimes had trouble picking that puck up.
Yeah, the shadows in there weren't good at all. Again, I think it was more of a Bullets venue than it was a hockey venue back then, or more for concerts as well. But I mean, they were tough years. I mean, the game I saw you play that day, you guys put a beating on the Islanders. I think it was like 5-2, one of your few wins that year as well. And I remember crying because I was a Flyers fan and I wanted to see the Capitals lose. And I thought for sure my dad got these tickets and for sure we'd watch you lose and you guys, pull it out. And I don't know, I'd have to go back and look and see how many points you got that night, but obviously you probably had a hand in 5 goals or so.
Well, I'm glad to disappoint you that night, Chuck. And I could see that it didn't discourage you being a lifetime Flyers fan, though.
No. Well, speaking of disappointment, I want to ask you, because obviously tonight's the big night that Alex Ovechkin's knocking on your door for 708 goals. And he's been chasing that down. You and I had this conversation back last spring when he was stuck at 48, just before we were going to have you on the show and talk about that then. And obviously COVID hit and stuck Ovechkin in the pause button with everybody else, and he didn't make 50 goals that season. If he would have got 50, he would have tied your record. There you go with Alex there, the grade 8 next year. Was that at your jersey retirement ceremony there, Garts?
Yeah, I think it was, which was back in, I think, December 2008, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I want you to tell that story about your son Dylan as well, because obviously this is a big night. You and Jarvie go down there, and the whole night's all about you. They're going to hoist number 11 to the rafters, and Alex is there, and everyone's all about you. And what ended up happening?
Well, I had my whole family down there and everything. And I knew that my son Dylan was a huge Capitals fan and a huge Alex Ovechkin fan. And so he just kept on asking me, "Dad, are we going to get a chance to see Ovi? Are we going to get a chance to see Ovi?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm sure we are." So we get down in the dressing room and, introduce him to Ovi. And Dylan will tell you now, honestly, he had a great weekend watching his dad's number get retired. But he also had a great weekend getting to know Alex Ovechkin and meeting him for the first time, his hero. So it was great. And Alex, to our family as well, was so gracious, and to our friends, Wes and Darlene Jarvis were down there as well, and as our extended family. And as I said, he was just so gracious, as the whole Washington Capitals organization was. But it's great now that Alex is obviously going to pass my record. He's going to pass some other great goal scorers records, and it might pass everybody's record at some point. But I mean, I'm going to fall maybe tonight. And next in line is Phil Esposito, and then Marcel Dion, and not too far. Maybe Brett Hull's a stretch for this year, but maybe not, depending on how hot Ovi can get. And then you're just knocking on the door after that. And if anybody could do it, Alex Ovechkin can do it. I'd be happy to continue to talk about it. I don't want to just continue to blabble on though.
Well, I seem to think that you can still play right now, even on a fourth line. I mean, if Mike Huff can score 10 goals in an NHL season, you can get 10 more and beat Espo. What do you think about that?
Okay, I got to defend Huffer too. Huffer plays Tuesday morning hockey with us still. So, Huffer was a pretty good player in his day. But so, I mean, I still do play, and I still play now, not with COVID lately, but we still play a couple of times a week. And and I still love playing. And I've always just liked the competition and just liked playing hockey. And so I still do. And maybe I could play a shift and you wouldn't notice the difference. But I think after a shift or two, you might say, hey, that guy's 61 years old. What's he doing out here?
Still got the wheels, Mike. You still got the wheels, and everybody as well. So.
Listen, we've got a lot of comments coming on the right-hand side. I can't believe how many texts I'm getting. So I know you've got a lot of questions, Chuck. But let's go to the audience here and get some comments. I want to do a shout out to Ryan Savin and, of course, our new assistant producer, James. We put him on the spot. We're putting him right in the hot seat, having Mike Gartner with us. So we're excited to have him be learning through experience. Here's a great comment from Craig Campbell. I'm sure you know the name from the Hockey Hall of Fame. Hello, Mike. Hopefully we will see you at the Hall of Fame sometime soon. Who was your top defenseman that you recall being the toughest to play against, either in the NHL and you had a good international career? Tell us who you felt was the toughest guy to play against.
Well, for me, it was, I played against all the top defensemen of my era were all hard to play against. But the guy that I think was the toughest to play against was Dennis Potvin, because Dennis, first of all, we played against him so often when I was playing for Washington and then again for the Rangers, where we were in the same division. We played, it seemed like, 8, 7, 8, 9, 10 games, including playoffs against the New York Islanders. And Dennis was a great player. He was also a tough player, and he was always tough to play against. First of all, I'd be lining up all the time against Clark Gillies. He'd be playing left wing, and it seemed like I played every shift against Clark, and he was tough to play against. And then I finally maybe get through Clark, and next thing I know, I got Dennis Potvin up against me. And then I finally, if I ever beat Dennis, I have Billy Smith. So they were tough to play against, and Dennis was tough to play against. He was he was strong. He was a great player. He was mean when he had to be. And so I always enjoyed playing against him because I always had to have my head up and be ready to play. But I'll tell you one quick story, Kerry, if I could, about Dennis.
Oh, that's
and how tough he is. So we're playing in Long Island, and I'm coming down my off wing through the neutral zone. And I cut over, and I see Dennis going to step up on me. He's going to kill me, right? So I get my stick up, and I get my stick up, and he hits me with his shoulder and my stick, and I'm using one of those old Titan turbos. Well, it was like a big chunk of fiberglass, and it didn't break. These sticks didn't break. And so Dennis hits me, and I go down, and he goes down, and I look up. The referee's got his hand up. I'm thinking, yeah, I guess so. Dennis, you're getting a penalty. He says, Gartner, you got a penalty for cross-checking. I said, you got to be kidding me. So I go in the penalty box, and as I'm going to the penalty box, my hand's killing me. So I get in the penalty box, and I look down at my glove, and my glove is all soaked in blood. So I take my glove off, and my thumb is kind of half ripped off from one side to the other. And Dennis Potvin hit me so hard, and my stick didn't break, that the pressure kind of ripped half my thumb off. So I got the attention of the referee, and the whistle blew. And I had to go into the dressing room. So I go into the dressing room, and I go in, and the doctor takes a look at it. And I said, can you stitch me up? So he stitches me up. And I said, can you put some freezing in that? It's really killing me. And he said, okay. So he put some freezing in it. And I go out on the ice, and I try it. And I mean, I can't barely hold my stick. It's just, it's so sore, right?
Yeah.
So next shift, I go back into the dressing room and I say to the doctor again, you got to put some more freezing in this because, you know, it's killing me. So he puts some more freezing in it. Well, I go back out. Well, doesn't my whole hand go numb, right? I can't even feel anything. So I said, the heck with it. So I went in the dressing room. That was the end of that game. But that's how tough Dennis Potvin was. And I wish the Titan Turbo would have broken at that time, but unfortunately it didn't.
Yeah. Well, listen, you're watching Gooch Live featuring Paul Rosen. We are here because of the hockey news and, of course, Sports Illustrated. And we're with legendary Mike Gartner. Listen, Mike, I'm going to ask you one more question on the side here. Any Cincinnati Stingers, WHA stories you'd like to pass on to our crowd?
Well, Cincinnati was back in the WHA days, which I played in when I was 18 years old because it was a 20-year-old NHL draft at the time. And so I went down and played. Wayne Gretzky started off with Indianapolis, ended up with Edmonton. And then there were a bunch of guys that were playing, Rob Ramage and Craig Hartsburg and Michel Goulet, Rick Vive were playing down in Birmingham. And so also who I was playing with was Mark Messier. So Mark was 17 and I was 18 years old. And we had a lot of fun playing. It was a great stepping stone between there and the NHL. And Cincinnati was a really good hockey town. And we were all disappointed that we weren't one of those 4 teams that got brought into the NHL at that time. But it was a lot of fun. I thoroughly enjoyed my time in Cincinnati. I had some great teammates. I was just actually talking with Barry Melrose not too long ago, just a few weeks ago. We've been on some Zoom calls doing different things. And so it was great to get a chance to see Barry Melrose, somebody I played with, and Dave Forbes and Chuck Luxa, and then obviously Mike Liut I play with, Michel Dion, and Robbie Fatorik was there. I have some great memories from that time in Cincinnati. There's the team. How about that?
Were you sporting the mustache back then?
No. I don't think I could have grown one back then, but maybe not.
Listen, I wanted to talk to you about your one of the things everyone knows about Mike Gartner is you're calm under pressure. You're an assassin with that stick of yours. I know you can talk all day about not finding a good stick these days compared to what you play with as well. But for the kids that are watching as well, like you have some really great insight into how you slow the game down. There was a great movie that Gabe Polsky put on called In Search of Greatness, and he talks about the great ones really being able to slow the play down. And you've always had that really intellectual take to the game. You're a highly intelligent player, and your hockey sense is off the chart as well. But what do you do inside of your own life that you can kind of slow things down? You have fun. You're very playful, and you're able just to slow the play down a lot and then let your natural goal scoring instinct just kind of kick in and just take care of business.
Well, you know what I think one of the keys is preparation. And I always took preparation very seriously and worked very hard in the off season, worked hard in practice, worked hard away from the game, tried to keep a balance in my life. As a Christian athlete and in my faith being very much a central part of who I am and still who I am, and trying to keep things in perspective, but also trying to be very prepared so that when you get into the competition and it gets faster and the game gets faster and you've done all the preparation. We often said, you don't want to be thinking a lot on the ice. And really, that just breaks down to preparation. It means that you've prepared so you actually don't have to think. You just have to continue to react to the game. You just let your natural instincts take over, and you try to not put yourself in those panic situations because the game gets easier every row you get away from the game. So a good friend of mine, Wes Jarvis, once said, what playing in the NHL is like, it's like playing in the top drawer of your dresser. It is so congested out there on the ice. When you get down at ice level, and all you guys have played hockey at a lot of different levels, you know that it does not look the same way at ice level as it does at camera level. And so when you're on the ice, it happens very fast. When you're one step back from the ice, if you're a coach, it happens just a little bit slower because you're standing on top of the bench. When you're in the third row, the game's a little slower. By the time you get up to the press box, it is like it's in slow motion up there, and you can see everything. But that's why I say that it's very much a perspective that once you're down on the ice, you need to remain calm because there's a lot happening out there.
You know, I think as a professional, I think that's one of the most important things you can tell kids is just, you know, preparation is just so important. You know, it's about doing, like you said, the word balance. And I mean, like, you're still in insanely great shape right now with great wheels and hands that I can never stop as well. You have that one backhand move that you kind of go upstairs on my over my blocker, and I just can't stop that play as well. But I wanted to talk about, you mentioned faith as well. And obviously we all know that you're a man of faith, but I wanted you to speak a little bit to people that are watching as well. Obviously, you have your faith as well, and it's important to have something that works for you as well. That's worked for you since you've been a young man, and it served you well your entire career and life off ice with balance as well. So how important is that to have your faith working for you and having that community of people around you that off the ice makes all the difference in balance?
Well, it's essential. It's who I am. When a player or when anyone, we talk about the preparation, all the things that you have to do. So as an athlete, you're prepared physically. You have to be in great shape. You have to work on your craft. You have to do what you can physically. There's mental coaches now that help people and help athletes with the mental part of the game, because it is a very important part of the game. We have nutrition coaches. We have strength coaches. We have everybody that's helping us in every different way. But we as humans also have a spiritual dimension, and I think it's important to tap into that spiritual dimension. And for me, I mean, I believe as a Christian that is who I am, and that faith is central to what's necessary and where you can get peace in life. Especially, when I look out, I'm looking out over a lake right now, frozen lake at that, but over a frozen lake, and the beauty of that. And the two things that I've kind of gleaned, not as much from hockey, but certainly hockey has been a big part of it, but just throughout other events in my life, is just the idea of having gratitude on a daily basis and being thankful and having a positive attitude. And so if you have that gratitude and attitude, we can't control our circumstances, as you know, but we certainly can control how we respond to our circumstances. And this is a difficult time that we're all going through, that the world is going through right now. And some people are having more difficulties than others, but we're certainly having that kind of difficulty. So it's good to have that grounding.
Listen, thank you for that perspective. We've got so many questions going on here. I love it. So I'm going to pull some of these comments up. Mike, what are your thoughts on the transition from wood sticks? We already heard you talk about, obviously, when Dennis, that's a tough question today. Obviously, in the NHL, it has been a big transition. Are you a fan of that? I know you've used composite, but do you feel a difference between wood and composite, really?
Yeah, you do. Sure, you do. It's a better product. It's a more modern product. It's a better tool, and so the guys should be using that. I used wood about half my career, and a little more than half in composite for maybe the last third. And now the composite sticks are actually quite a bit different than I used. And so guys, for instance, I used a very, very stiff hockey stick because I just wanted to be able to feel exactly where the puck was going, that the blade didn't open, it didn't fly, it didn't. And now guys use, these whippy, like 60 and 75 flex sticks where, I kind of use that now because I don't want to work as hard anymore. You can just let the stick do a little bit of the work. So yes, I love the idea of the more productive sticks. Now, the thing with the new sticks and the flex that they're using right now is they seem to break a fair amount, because you get guys breaking sticks. Now sticks have always broken, whether they're wood or composite really makes no difference. The only stick that doesn't break is a Titan Turbo, and I don't suggest that you use them. But they seem to break because if they get slashed, which they always do, it creates a little weakness in the stick, and then they seem to shatter at very inopportune times.
Yeah. Hey, listen, all the way from Brisbane, saying hello. Big Leafs fan. We'll get into the Leafs in a few seconds. No Flyer talk. Listen, you are in my NHL 21 Ultimate Team, and since 10 minutes, I know why you have a 93 speed. All right, love it.
All right.
Favorite Mike Gartner memory is Game 1, 1994 Campbell Conference Final versus the Canucks, and Mike loses his stick over the glass, and a fan tosses it back to a mid-play. I was in the building way up in the Grays that night. Also, an overtime winner versus San Jose to force Game 7. You remember that?
I remember that very well. And we're playing against Vancouver in Toronto, Maple Leaf Gardens, and the puck comes up the right wing boards, and I believe it was Nathan Lafayette just came and just crushed me as I was getting the puck. And so I go down, and my stick goes flying, and so I get up, and I'm kind of looking around for my stick. I'm going, where's my stick? Where's my stick? And I just happened to catch the eye of the guy in the stands on the other side of the glass, and he's kind of holding my stick, and he's going like that. So I look out, and the play's going on, and so I kind of motion him. So he throws the stick back over the glass, and I get the stick, and just happens the puck comes to me, and I chip it out of the zone, and it's whistle happens a little bit after that. I go back to the bench, and Bob Stellick was working for the Toronto Maple Leafs at that time, and he goes back over to the fan who had and gave him the stick, and it was all good. It was shown on CNN. It was a lot of fun, pretty unique. Now I've heard people say since that time, he should have been penalized for taking a stick back from the stands, and it's like, well, maybe so, but at the time it was pretty cool.
Yeah, no question. Here's a great comment. Looks like a very young 61. Thank you for that.
Thank you for that. Yes.
I thought they were talking about me. It's you. We're the same.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kerry. See, I just assumed, but that could have very well been you.
Of course it was Tian. Derek Luck is coming on. Hey, Lucky. Mike G was a class guy and oozed humble pie. That's no there it is.
There it is.
Look at that.
Like I'm looking around. What the heck's going on? Now the guy throws it back over to me. And there's the stick.
Just where it happened, Garts.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good having that.
One more question. I know we've got just a little more time. One more point, and then Chuck, it's you. Ryan Saban, he has just joined up. He's taking care of all of our videos and helping with social media, and he's so excited to be on. Mike, if you could pick one player from the NHL today to have played with in your career, which one would you choose? And it can't be a Philadelphia Flyer.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to play with Connor McDavid. I mean, Connor, I've played, believe it or not, I've actually played with Connor McDavid. So when he was 15 years old, his dad, Brian, and I played hockey together once again on Tuesday mornings at NTR in Newmarket, the rink that Wes Jarvis and I own. And I asked Brian, we were having Patrick Brown had put together this hockey night in Barrie to help Royal Victoria Hospital up in Barrie, Ontario. And so he invited a whole bunch of current players in mid-August to come up. And so Connor came up, I think, when he was 15, 16, 17, and 18 years old, played every summer and helped us raise about $250,000 every summer. And so I played with Connor as a very young guy. And I can still remember thinking this kid is going to be a great player. And just because he had unbelievable speed, and I'm thinking that's like scary kind of speeds. First 4 strides, don't know if I've ever seen faster.
Yeah, I mean, like if you say that Connor McDavid can fly, then obviously, that's the greatest compliment I think he could probably ever receive, I think,
Yeah, Chuck, that's dead serious. Like he could fly and obviously can fly. And the difference between him and me is I could skate. There's no question about it. And I could skate fast and I could shoot and all those good things, but I could never skate as fast with the puck as Connor does. The puck slowed me down a little bit, as it slows everybody down a little bit, right?
Yeah, but you get that puck in stride and you're still gone, and then nobody can catch it all, and it's then it's just like me looking in the back of my net trying not to swear. One of the things I love playing with you guys is just the stories that you would have in the dressing room. I mean, it would always be like you might lose a skip in your step in your 3-on-3 rinks. They're a little smaller, but you all still have the hands. I love Jarvie chirping in the dressing room every single morning if Team Black didn't step up and who was to blame if they did, and that sort of thing. And of all the questions I want to ask you as well as a kid, there's a hamster wheel in my head going around, but the one I think that I think most people want to hear is obviously as a professional, at the elite level of the game, you get to play with the Capitals and obviously on with the other teams that you play with as well. But even at that level there, you're still not peaking out until you get to 1987 and you get the Canada Cup team. And I know just from speaking to you before in the dressing room about what that meant to you and playing with the elite of the elite of the elite against the elite of the elite of the elite as a professional that you are, the consummate professional. Just talk to us a little bit about that experience, your basic memories from the '87 Canada Cup, your takeaways, and what you felt about playing with the best of the best and playing with them and being there.
Yeah, like the '87 Canada Cup, it was the best team that I've ever been part of, best hockey that I've ever been part of, and best overall experience from the standpoint of just kind of where it was in the game as well. You had Wayne Gretzky at the very top of his game. You had a younger Mario Lemieux coming in that had great individual success, but hadn't taken his game to the next level. And watching him watch Wayne Gretzky just carry himself and practice and play, and watch Mario become the player that he eventually became. And then having our surrounding cast, I mean, we were quite a mix of different players. I remember looking around and during the training camp that we had, and we had a lot of great players, Hall of Famers that didn't make that team. And I looked around and thought, man, I better do something. I better be a good back checker on this team, or else I'm not going to make it. And so by the time we got to the third game, it was a 3-game series against the Russians, and each game was 6-5. By the time we got to the third game, our checking line was me on right wing, Glenn Anderson on left wing, and Mark Messier at center. And that was our checking line. And we were checking the Russians' top line of Krutov, Larionov, and Makarov. And so anytime they were on the ice, we were generally on the ice. And so it was great to be able to contribute in that way, which was different than the way you contribute with your own team. And how that all kind of came together, and Mario's winning goal, and the great Del Howardchuk, who was a great teammate for us back then, played such a big part in that series. It was great hockey, very memorable, and I'm very thankful that I was part of it.
Unbelievable. Look at that team. That is absolutely incredible. Hey, listen, there's a couple more comments. Rick has come up. It's actually Lorelei. Oh, sorry. Hi from Lorelei, Mike, and Colleen. Started the Tim Adlam Fund at Hockey Ministries after my brother Tim was killed in a car accident. As a result, our family was able to send several great youth to the hockey camp for many years. This touched so many lives.
Yeah, wonderful people, and Tim was a wonderful young man, and it was great that we were able to help us start that and do something in his honor. And there were a lot of kids after that benefited from that and had a very positive experience at these Christian camps, and it was great, wonderful people. Thanks very much.
Listen, lots of questions here. All the way from Melbourne, Australia. He's a big Brady Bunch guy. He thinks you look like Mike Brady. And of course, with Chuck, we always say to him, he looks like Hartnell.
It's been a long time since I watched the Brady Bunch.
Yeah. Well, he's from Melbourne, Australia, so they don't have a lot to do over there. Boats don't travel that quickly. Hey, what was your favorite stadium to play in, home and away?
Yeah, so I mean, playing at Maple Leaf Gardens, it was in some ways the best rink because of the nostalgia of it. It really wasn't a very good rink, though. I mean, I can remember how disappointed I was when I got traded to Toronto Maple Leafs, and I went into the dressing room and I kind of went, hey, is this the home team dressing room? Like, this is the home team dressing room? I said, yeah. It's like, wow, that's something, because it wasn't very nice, but it was so fun to play at at Maple Leaf Gardens just because of the history of it. And then the other one obviously was the same on the other side of it, was the old Chicago Stadium. Once again, the history of it, how loud it was in there during the national anthem. If you could survive the first 5 minutes of the game against the Chicago Blackhawks, you had a chance to win, but oftentimes you wouldn't survive that. And just the atmosphere was great. So 2 very memorable arenas for me.
This is just before we bring Chuck up for his last question. This is coming again. We got a lot of people from Australia that know Mike Gartner. Hi, Gooch, it's Marnie. And my question to Mike is, what was your highlight of your hockey career? Marnie's a young lady that just took up the game. She just turned 13. She was a netball player. She never really considered ice hockey. She came to one of our events and she fell in love with the game. Now everything's ice hockey. There's no more netball. It's all about ice hockey. So what a great question. Thank you, Marty. And do good in school. We need you good.
Yes, I've said earlier that I think my highlight would be the 1987 Canada Cup and being part of that Canadian team that won the World Championship at that time, the Canada Cup. And then obviously 2 other events was the Hockey Hall of Fame induction in November of 2001. And then again, getting my jersey retired by the Washington Capitals in 2008 was, those are 3 real highlights for me to be able to be part of those. First of all, that team in 1987, and then the accolades that followed, and be able to share that with my family was extremely important.
Yeah, I actually had tears in my eyes watching you get your jersey hoisted up in Washington too, because obviously being able to play with you and just know you as a person as well, to me, it was just like, yeah, it was real for me. Otherwise, every other ceremony is just some other guy that you just don't know, that you watch kind of growing up as well. But, knowing your work ethic and your character and that nasty, sniper shot of yours, that was a part of me as well. And to watch Jarvie, with you as well, to have that hoisted. I got one question left, and I got split between 2, and I'm just going to use this one as well, because obviously we know that you're with the Hockey Hall of Fame and the board and your contribution there. But one of the things I love about you, Mike, is that you just do so much work with charity. I mean, you're always involved with kids and, obviously with your faith and hockey ministries and Teen Ranch as well. And I think that's one of the things that players now are starting to adapt to, is the energy that they get from contribution and having that community. But just speak a little bit to what it means to you to give back to kids and watching them grow up and be able to contribute to, charities and organizations like that.
Yeah, I appreciate the question. I appreciate the comments, Chuck. It means a lot. Community means everything to me, and it does to a lot of players. And I think that as we get older, we realize that you do nothing by yourself, really, and everything is part of a community. And the more you can give back, the better it is for the community, and the better it is for you, because it's the way I think we're made. I remember being asked early in my career about being a role model. And, I thought about it, and I've heard different comments and different things that people have said about being a role model. And where I landed was that I actually didn't have a choice whether I was a role model. So I was a role model. My choice was whether I was going to be a good role model or a poor role model. And so I chose that I was going to try to be a good role model. And so I think that just spills over into the community. I enjoy being part of our local community. I enjoy being part of a slightly larger community as well, and as well as the hockey community. And I think that is what makes it all worthwhile. Well said.
Very well said. And you know what? You're legendary. You do so much for the community, and we can't thank you enough. But the final part to it, of course, we have to, I'd be remiss not to ask the question. Listen, Chuck and I both know if we would have had Paul on here, we'd be here for 3 days, because you got so many great stories that we could talk about, and so many.
Too many, Gary.
You know what? We're going to ask a part 2 one day, if you don't mind. Come back and tell us some more stories, but we'll stick it to the last one. Obviously, we have to touch upon the Toronto Maple Leafs. tell us what you think about the Canadian division. Obviously, what's going on with COVID today, and of course the Toronto Maple Leafs. Do you like their team? Obviously, they have some pretty good players with Austin Matthews and of course Mitch Marner. Tavares, Joe Thornton as an old veteran, and then of course they're in against the Montreal Canadiens, who look very good this year. Love to hear how you're thinking the NHL is going so far.
Yeah, they do. I think, first of all, I think the NHL has done a really good job. They did a good job with the whole COVID playoff format that happened in the summer, and then starting back up. These are difficult circumstances to be in, and when Gary Bettman came out and said they would lose less money if they didn't play, I actually do not doubt that one bit, and I think that he's right. But you have to play because it's a long-term investment. It's the right thing to do, and it's the right business thing to do as well. And so as part of that, you have to look, because your teams are in both countries. I think the Canadian division was the natural thing to do, and I think that it was the right thing to do, and it's actually proving to be pretty interesting, especially playing against a lot of the Western teams. The same thing with them coming to the Eastern teams against each other a lot. And there's going to be a little animosity that's going to get built up over the course of the season. And I think that as it starts to play itself out, I think it's going to be even more interesting. You get a team like the Montreal Canadiens, who are playing extremely well this year, and I think a little bit surprising in some respects. Edmonton is going to see how good they're going to be. They had a little bit of a shaky start, but they have Connor McDavid, Draisaitl. They've got a great nucleus of a team. But I do like our Toronto Maple Leafs. I really do. I like the key players that they have. I like the acquisitions that they've made. They've gotten a little bigger and a little stronger. Certainly more experience. I think picking up Joe Thornton, it was just a good, smart move. I think they've got one of the most exciting young defensemen with Morgan Riley that's around, and they've got excellent. I think they've got excellent goaltending. I really do like their mix. I think it's going to take a few breaks along the way. It really is, and so I like them. I like what I see. I think they've got a little better. They might still need to do a couple things before they get over the top. But right now, they just need to win the Canadian division, right? But some of the other teams are proving to be real surprises, and I like the whole idea of it.
Well, as we wrap up, I know, Chuck, you have a question. I can see it in your eyes right now.
No, I'm just sitting here like a kid in a candy store talking to Garts online.
I thought you were going to ask, and what do you think about my Flyers? All right, we'll leave that alone.
I go way back to that. He hates my Flyers, and I get it. So, I just let that one slide.
I don't hate the Flyers, Chuck. It's just you just can't root for everybody,
Ooh, I touched the nerve. Hey, listen, Mike, thank you so much for taking time out with us. We'd love to have you back. Obviously, being on Gooch Live with featuring Paul Rosen, it's just so great to have such legendary people like yourself. But what I think is most important, I know everybody's saying how great you are, and that's what's fantastic about it. You're always humble.
You guys
You're always so polite,
very kind.
And
Thank
you know what?
Very much.
You've always got a smile on your face. Are those, we got to ask you, is it real?
I guess, as far as I know, it is, Kerry.
No, your teeth.
Oh gosh, no, I lost those a long time ago.
We're all in the same boat. All right, you've been watching Gooch Live featuring Paul Rosen, brought to you by the good people of the Hockey News and Sports Illustrated, and of course Paramount Sports Management. Thank you. Mike Gartner, one of the all-time greatest legends. Listen, Hockey Hall of Famer, you've done it all. And we're so glad that you were with us. Thank you.
Thanks, Kerry. Thanks, Chuck.
Thanks, Garts.
Mike
honestly,
Mike Gartner.
I want to say this one thing so that everybody understands this. There's guys that you meet out there that you watch play hockey. And I've met a lot of them, and you chase your childhood, your heroes and that. Mike Gartner is the one guy I can honestly say that has never disappointed me on any level of the one thing, if I could think of one word about Garts, it's gratitude, because he's just so balanced. He's kind. He is just down to earth. He is the advocate for the underdog. He does charity work. He's just one of the greatest guys
Yeah.
who just plays hockey really well. Him and Mark Osborne, Wes Jarvis, Chris King, those guys there, they're just, I didn't do anything good in my life to deserve to play with those guys, let alone be their friend.
Well, I know you've got a tattoo on the back of your neck.
Oh, the red light?
You got it, the red light. Yeah. Hey, guys, listen, thank you so much, Chuck. Great job. We're looking forward to tomorrow. We've got Dave, Tiger, Williams. That's going to be a show, I'll tell you. I'll tell you what. I hope Rosie's on because we can talk about our times over in Australia. Here it is. Look at this dude. I'm already scared.
He's terrifying. I just never knew what he was going to do. And you know what? People don't understand what a good goal scorer Tiger was. Tiger, when he got traded to Vancouver, was a snipey McSnipey. He was a great goal scorer. He was a great player, two-way.
Well, the all-time greatest thing about him was when he did score, he rode the stick. Remember those V Vancouver jerseys? Absolutely incredible. Awesome. Hey, and we had such great comments, and thank you everybody for joining us. Aaron Kuzak, of course, thank you. Craig Ehrlich out of Chicago, a great A-lister. Thank you for that. And tune in for tomorrow. Can't wait to see this one. Tagger is with us. Hey, tonight at 7 o'clock, I am on with Gary Brazina. He is a concussion expert. You got to listen to this one. It's a special edition, one-on-one with Gooch. We're talking everything about concussions, of course, and his medical practice down in LA. He is an absolute dream to have on. And of course, I know Scott Holler will be piping in and giving us some questions to ask him. So thank you very much for everybody joining in. Clive, a little late, but I know you met Mike Gartner at the Leafs training camp when you had the Aussie junior team here. A great bloke, of course, and it was up at the Teen Wrench. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Chuck. Well done.
See you guys.
Thanks, Val. Thanks, James. And we will see you tonight.
Let's play some hockey.